Good morning and welcome to another edition of Inside Oakwood with Dr. Leslie Pollard. We have a very, very exciting topic to talk about. It's a partnership, and partnerships are always just great. Dr. Pollard, thanks for being with us this morning.
Hey, good morning, Donna, and good morning to all of our listeners on WJOU. I want to say good morning to all 100,000 of you who are within the scope of our listening audience, and then, of course, those around the world who are listening via the internet. Donna, this morning, we're just delighted to talk about a very important partnership that we have with the University of Alabama at Birmingham, and particularly the medical school and the medical program. Many people don't know, but for 14 years, I spent a part of my administrative life working in diversity and inclusion at the Loma Linda University Medical Center and the Loma Linda University Consortium of Health Institutions. And while there, I had the unique privilege of assisting in the recruitment of students into schools of medicine, pharmacy, dentistry, public health, and the other related health professions. I served on the med school admissions committee for 14 years and actually did interviews with incoming students who were considering medicine as a calling and as a vocation.
Wow.
What always struck me was the need to diversify the pipeline, to make sure that the opportunities represented in medicine were extended to every stakeholder group. I remember doing grand rounds one day, and a group of residents, surgical residents, I was doing grand rounds like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was doing a conversation with them about cultural competence in healthcare. And I'll never forget what one of the residents asked. He said, "Doc," he said, "I hear what you're saying." He said, "But come on, Doc, isn't the flu just the flu?" I said, "What do you mean by that?" He said, "All this stuff about cultural competence." He said, "The flu is the flu." I said, "Yes, that's true. But here is what's not true. Every bearer of the flu is not the same. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, the more focused you are on the cultural needs, the understandings, the perspectives, the lens through which this patient sees the world, right, don't you think that can increase their compliance with your care plan?" Mm. And he paused for a moment. He said, "You've got something there." I said, "You're not just treating the flu, you're treating people. And people often need to see people who look like them in these moments where they're in direst crisis." Now, ultimately, I want really the best care that I can actually get. Exactly. That's where I am at my life. But when you think about healthcare and you think about the calling to make sure that every stakeholder group has access to opportunities to deliver care in the particular cultural garb in which they are dressed, it does make a difference in our delivery of healthcare. And it helps us to address some of the disparities in healthcare. In 2004, the School of the Institutes of Medicine actually published its groundbreaking study on healthcare disparities. And today, Oakwood University is partnering with UAB in order to help close the gap on some of those disparities in the delivery of care and in the outcomes that should be expected from healthcare recipients. So with that, we're in for it. It's going to be great. I know I've said too much. I look at Donna's face right now. I can see it. She's glazing over, and that's okay. But it was meant from a good place, right? It came from a good space. So that's what we're talking about today. And we're talking about how Oakwood and the University of Alabama at Birmingham can partner to make this happen. And my key text, because we are a faith-based institution, is 3 John 2, where the old man says to the young group of believers, "I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health." Healthcare is such, especially during the pandemic, we now recognize that the old adage is almost completely true. If you've got your health, you've got just about everything. And that's what we're talking about today. So I'm excited for our guests, and I'm going to ask Dr. Benn Marshall, who is with us this morning, to help introduce all of our guests this morning.
Good morning, Oakwood listeners. I am so excited because I have the opportunity, and I'm actually going to just introduce a friend of mine who I kind of grew up with. His dad was my professor at Oakwood University. Loved the relationship that he and my father had. And I'm going to introduce an Oakwood alum who is a member of the staff at University of Alabama. He's at the Huntsville campus. That is Dr. Robert Blake.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for
Good
having me.
morning. Good morning, Dr. Blake. Dr. Blake, your dad was my, I think your dad was my, what did your dad teach? Your dad taught mathematics, didn't he?
That's correct. Correct.
Yeah, he was my algebra teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, I told him, I teased him in later years. I said, Doc, I said, I know you gave me that A because I didn't earn it. You know what I mean? I know you gave it to me because I know I didn't earn it.
Too much information.
He laughs. He said, no, you earned it. You earned it. And we miss your dad too. We miss your dad. We want you to know that.
All right. And we have some other people with us as well. Dr. Karen Benn Marshall, you want to introduce them as well?
Yeah, I think I'm going to let Dr. Blake introduce them only because I want to make sure I get the titles right.
Okay, but we also have Dr. Vanterpool here with us from Oakwood University. She heads up the STEM department. Well, I shouldn't say the STEM department, but she is the chair of the Department of Biological Sciences. She's with us from Oakwood University. And then we have some special guests from the University of Alabama, Birmingham School of Medicine. And we are going to let Dr. Blake tell us about those guests before we get into our discussion.
Sure. Well, I'd like to introduce our regional dean of the Huntsville Regional Medical Campus of UAB, Dr. Roger Smalligan. And for our statewide campus, the associate dean, I believe, of admissions and enrollment, Dr. Christina Grabowski.
Morning.
Good morning. We are just so excited to have all of you here to talk about this wonderful partnership. And so I want to start with UAB, and then we're going to get back to why this is such a great partnership with all the great things that are happening at Oakwood University, of course, that I'm sure helped lead to this partnership actually coming to fruition. But tell me about how this is going to benefit UAB, and why did you decide to even think about this partnership? How many years ago was it when these discussions started?
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to just greet and say to President Pollard, Dr. Benn Marshall, Dr. Vanterpool, and your entire team, I just want to say thank you so much for having us today on this and on this show, and for this opportunity to say how excited we are from the UAB side to partner with Oakwood University. And I want to tell you, I think, Robert, Dr. Blake, you tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe my wife and I were strolling downtown Huntsville, Alabama, because I'm the dean of the Huntsville campus of UAB. We have 70 medical students at all times in Huntsville, Alabama, that are UAB students. So you do your first 2 years in Birmingham, everybody together. And then we have 70 students come up to Huntsville. So we're right in your neighborhood with Oakwood University. And then we have a number of students stay right in Birmingham. And then we have a number of students go to Tuscaloosa and some to Montgomery. But what I want to say is we were walking downtown one night, shortly after I'd come here, and it happened to be the night of Oakwood University's graduation.
Oh, wow.
And we're walking along the street and hear these, just people flocking to the graduation downtown to the Von Braun Center. And this really nice, sharp young lady was walking next to us. And I just said, hey, can you tell us what the event is? She said, well, this is Oakwood University graduation. And we got to chatting, and she was so sharp, so interactive. And I said, what are you interested in? And she said, well, I really like science. She might have been in biology, Dr. Vanterpool. And I said, well, you know what? You need to come over. We have a medical school, right here. Are you coming into the UAB medical school? She said, well, I've thought about different fields. And I said, well, you seem really, really sharp. I want you. So I came back and told Dr. Blake that story. And I was trying to recruit Oakwood students right down there at graduation.
Wow.
And he said, well, I do have connections. And
yes, he does.
And that led to a meeting with Dr. Grabowski, myself, Dr. Blake, leadership on the campus, Dr. Benn Marshall, Dr. Vanterpool. A number of us got together, about a year and a half ago, to begin to float this idea around. Like, could we not have a tighter connection? Could we not get to know the Oakwood students who are interested in medicine and recruit some of your top students to come into the UAB School of Medicine? So I think that's the way I remember it. Dr. Blake, you correct me.
No, that's absolutely correct. It is, definitely.
So then, Dr. Grabowski, can you tell us, what your involvement was in this partnership and what you thought about it when the idea came to you?
Yeah, well, certainly, I'd be happy to. So I came to UAB about 4 years ago to sort of think about admissions a little differently and implement a more robust holistic review process. And upon my arrival, thinking about all the ways we could diversify our medical education pipeline to the workforce, our assistant dean, Carlton Young, Dr. Young, he's a transplant surgeon, said we need early assurance programs. And we are right here in Alabama, and one of the top feeders of all medical schools is in our backyard of our Huntsville campus. And we need to pursue these partnerships to see how we can help students in their undergrad years to prepare, as well as certainly for, so pipeline, right? An opportunity for the students to come. So that's how it started.
Right. And so, it's such a great partnership. It just makes sense to me in my mind when I think about all that Oakwood has to offer, partnering with UAB. Dr. Vanterpool, can you tell us about why this makes sense? What are the statistics about Oakwood University and why are our students so attractive?
Well, I just want to say, first of all, I am really excited about this partnership with UAB, really excited. And just let you know, Dr. Blake was my survey of calculus teacher. He was my favorite teachers at Oakwood. But yes, let me go back to the answer. First of all, when God is in the education process, your students will be successful. I'll just start off in saying that from the beginning. But this one thing about Oakwood is that the teachers at Oakwood are really, really caring. So when the students come in, we support each and every one of them. And when you support them, they can only succeed, right? And so, UAB, I've always looked at UAB as one of the most phenomenal schools in Alabama. We've had partnerships, not medical school, but, other partnerships with UAB, and it's been successful. So when when we were approached about this, I was super, super excited. But I just want to share some quick stats. Is that recently we've been published that we ranked, out of all the small HBCUs, we ranked 4th at graduating STEM African-American students. So I'm really excited about that because we were very small. Mm-hmm. And to have that amount and to be ranked amongst the top, that is awesome. And then we've been consistently ranked in the top 15 for by the AAMC, the American Medical College Association, for providing or matriculating African Americans into medical school. The latest one we ranked number 11. Mm-hmm. We're competing against all these schools nationally, and for us to be such a small school speaks to it. So our students are very involved and they're very successful. And I'm just really excited about the partnership that we are having with UAB.
Now, when you say consistently
I just want to say, I'm sorry. Austin Reed, one of our alums, he is there now. And I want to say that he is helping to pave the way. I just want to say he's amazing.
Wow. So
he's awesome right now, jumping on.
Hey, Austin, I see him coming on. Austin is coming on now. There's Austin. Welcome to the discussion for Inside Oakwood University. We were just talking about you, so you can share with us your experience as part of this program.
Repeat the question for me. I'm sorry.
Okay. You are one of the star students, I believe. Is that how we want to characterize this?
Yeah, I'll speak up and say we are so happy to have Austin not only come to UAB School of Medicine and spend his first 2 years in Birmingham getting the basic sciences, but then he's part of that group I was telling you that 70 students then come up to Huntsville, Alabama and live in Huntsville. They're in Huntsville Hospital, 900-bed hospital, and Austin has been a critical part of that. And we really appreciate his work here on the wards, and he's doing on-the-job training. That's how medical school is those last 2 years. But Austin, you tell us your take on it.
It's great. It's beautiful. Being back at Huntsville, I love that experience. Oakwood prepared me for medical school, so I feel very, very good about that. Like Dr. Smalligan said, it's hands-on training at the hospital up here. I've delivered 3 or 4 babies. It's amazing being up here.
Wow. So you've been a part of this program. With the 70, as Dr. Smalligan has mentioned, you're part of the group of students that are in the number of 70 here in Huntsville, and you're actually delivering babies. You're still in school.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Now, this is the type of experience I think that larger schools and their students would have an opportunity for. So I think this is really huge to have our students at our small HBCU be able to get these research and STEM opportunities and medical opportunities. And that's what, is this going to impact our rankings now, Dr. Vanterpool?
I believe so. I mean, every student that gets into a school put us up in the rankings. And then, so we're excited. I can see it, pushing us further up.
Okay. Well, I know it probably will. I mean, let me tell you, when you talked about being consistent in the rankings of sending African-American students into the medical field and them being successful, I can testify that that is true, because when I was a kid here at Oakwood, we heard about that. That was like the number one thing about Oakwood. We're producing these students into the medical field. So that is great. So Dr. Blake, let's go back to you, because you are an alum of Oakwood University. How important is this partnership to you as an alum of Oakwood University and now working at UAB School of Medicine?
Well, I'll give a little bit of background. I was, as most of you attested to, I was born and raised at Oakwood. My parents came here in 1964. And when I finished high school, I was blessed to have offers from different universities and colleges. And my parents told me, you're required for the first year to attend Oakwood. And when I graduated from Oakwood, they told me, after you do your first year, you can go anywhere else you want to. It's almost prophetically that they said that. And I was blessed because of my training at Oakwood, I really believe, to have gone all over the United States to serve, all over the different parts of the world, actually, to serve. And I attribute it to that training and that foundation that I received while I was at Oakwood. It wasn't until my sophomore year, though, that I was told, why did you consider doing medicine? I was not a pre-med major. And so I had to really double up. A lot of night school, 21 credits one semester, just to finish and get my pre-med curriculum together. And so coming back to UAB, it's almost a full circle for me. Dr. Pollard, you said something this weekend during our alumni weekend that Oakwood is missional in its approach in training students to enter to learn and be part to serve. And another thing you mentioned was that not only do our students go to serve on a global stage, but also Oakwood has not ignored the broader community around it. And I see that being the same stance that UAB has, in that they are also training students to go and serve on the global stage, the global arena, but they have not ignored their community. And so where those two missions intersect, this is where this collaboration comes about, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Wow, that was very well said.
Wow. Yeah, so well said. That consistently a lot of the AAM, I haven't checked in a little while, so Dr. Grabowski, Dr. Smalligan, Dr. Blake. So when I left it, I kind of moved to another area of higher education. But at the time that I spent all those years working at Loma Linda University Med School and et cetera, I used to regularly consult the AAMC data that Dr. Vanterpool referenced. And part of the code we're trying to crack is how to get the percentage of physicians of color to move off those numbers where we just stuck 4 to 5 to 6%. And maybe it's changed dramatically, but it's going to take these kinds of efforts to demystify the profession and to also create pathways of opportunity and encouragement for students as Dr. Hannah so ably represents, to help to create pathways so that we make the profession accessible and demystify it in many, many ways. So I'm grateful that UAB has made a commitment to actually doing that, because it does take a commitment. When I was working at the other school, we had partnerships with institutions. It takes a resource commitment, financial. It takes a personnel commitment. It often means that we're fighting against meritocracy. And I don't know how deep you want us to get into this, but I remember Well, yes. So we had a great dean of the School of Medicine at the time. His name was Dr. Brian Bull, Dr. Smalligan. He's retired now, but Dr. Bull did a fantastic, because I was on the med school admissions committee, and Dr. Bull, one quick story, we were admitting African American students, and of course, those who believe in meritocracy was saying we should only take students with the highest scores on the MCAT at the time. And I think the scoring then was on a 45-point scale. So, but what Dr. Bull did, it was amazing. Dr. Bull said, I think I know a way to address the concerns of these persons. And here's what Dr. Bull did. He went to one of the National Medical Association convention, and he said, here's who I am. This is what I'm trying to do. I want to do a study. All of you are successful physicians. And he actually did a survey. And he asked one question: what was your MCAT score when you entered into medical school? Because obviously they're successful. They're all boarded. They've graduated. What was your MCAT score? And when he got the answer, Dr. Bull established what he called a competitive range, that once students are within this range, you see the logic, right?
Yes.
Because they're obviously successful. You see the logic.
Right.
Once they're within this range, these students are acceptable candidates for medical school, because what this range probably implies is that there are other social factors that contribute to how and when and where students complete medical school. And it's not just the cognitive factors of how well they did on the MCAT. It opened the floodgates. It was an amazing contribution, and it's been written up, I think, in the Journal of Medicine. So Dr. Brian Bull, if you Google him, you'll get to see his study. It was a fascinating approach. He said, I remember sitting in his office one day, and he said, Doc, I got these people who think the higher the score, the better the student. The higher the score, the better the student. Now we know that there are other socio-cultural, psychological factors that contribute to success in completing medical school. Because in the end of the day, right, in the end of the day, I know I'm talking too much. In the end of the day, you can't do much with half of a medical degree. So when we admit a student, we want the students to succeed.
Right.
That's the only purpose for doing it,
Right.
right? Because you can't do much with half of a medical degree. We need to admit you and get you out. And I'm thankful to our colleagues at UAB, because that's their commitment. Once the student is admitted,
Yes.
in the early assurance program, we plan on graduating an MD.
Right. And this really speaks to what you had
Would
said.
you all like to pay me for that commercial? Would you like to pay Oakwood for that commercial? Would you? Yeah, I hope you would. I hope you'd like to pay Oakwood for that commercial.
That was beautiful.
I think it also, it begs the question of, how this partnership is also going to help UAB with diversity. And this is part of your mission, right? So can you speak to that?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I think diversity is a huge part of our mission, from the whole continuum of medical education, from bringing in pre-med students through the pathway programs into medical school, and then into our residency programs and our fellowship programs, because we need diversity all the way through the pipeline, right? And Dr. Pollard spoke so beautifully about what diversity does for medicine. But the piece that I'll add on is all of the rest of the students learn from students as well. And so they become better physicians. The students who bring diversity educate others as well. And so everyone becomes a better physician. So there's so many reasons why we would want to diversify the workforce. And these pathway programs are part of it. Holistic review, understanding that test scores are just one piece of the information to look at for applicants. Test scores tell us students can take tests. Test scores don't tell us what kind of physician someone's going to be. And so looking at all of those characteristics, right? What they're bringing, what experiences, what life story they're bringing, how they're going to interact with others, how they're going to listen and understand, are all important aspects of a student. I often talk about holistic review and talk about, if you're going to bring a football team together, do you bring just the fastest runners?
Right.
Are you going to have a good team
That's
if you have just a bunch of fast people? Someone's got to throw, and someone's got to tackle, and someone's got, right? And so there's a whole lot of skills that a physician needs other than a test score. Unfortunately, you have to take tests the rest of your life. So you do have to have a test score that tells us you're going to be able to do that part. But once you can do that, we need to look at all the other characteristics. So so important to have the right kind of team in healthcare.
Dr. Smalligan, would you like to add to that?
Yes, I would like to say that in speaking to my colleagues and patients and just observing interactions as we go through Huntsville Hospital, and I see that when I have a resident with me or a medical student of color, if the patient is of color, there's a certain level of comfort, I think, and reassurance there. There's something about having someone who looks like you with some of your background that I think it makes you more comfortable to communicate. You know, we heard about cultural sensitivity, and there's no better way. I will never fully understand what that means, but to have Austin with me on rounds, or to have Dr. Pritchett, one of my residents, an African-American from Huntsville, Alabama, resident, second-year resident in family medicine, when we're on rounds together, I just feel like we're a better team, you know, and we can take care of everybody. And it really, I think, is good, and it makes patients more comfortable. I think we take better care of patients, because there might be things that are said that maybe something that I'm not going to pick up on, but that maybe my resident is going to pick up on and share with me. The same thing might happen if, you know, I'm not from, you may tell I've only been here 4 or 5 years as well. I'm from Texas originally. So there might, if I have a rural, you know, Alabama student, they might pick up on something another patient is sharing that I'm not going to pick up on the nuances. Right. So I think like that we feel like diversity is so important. Right. And I want to just congratulate Dr. Grabowski too, because ever since she landed, she has really, really worked hard on these programs. And Dr. Pollard was mentioning the concern about the low percentage, and we had suffered from that for years. But I think when I got here, we were all the way up to 7% African American.
Congratulations.
I think this incoming class, though, Dr. Grabowski, what percentage of incoming class was underrepresented in medicine?
So we were historically about 8% underrepresented. And for the last 4 years, we've been between 15 and 21% underrepresented. So we've had it's a 71% increase for these 4 years of classes versus the 4 years prior to 71% increase in underrepresented students.
So please allow me, Dr. Grabowski and Dr. Smalligan, to compliment you. Yes. Because as a person who has worked in this area, I can fully appreciate the significant impact and effort it takes to deliver those kinds of percentages. So this is incredible. What we're listening to this morning is actually incredible, and probably should be written up and documented and put in some publications, because people will want to know, how are you doing this? What is it that you are doing? When we think about cultural competency, we think about it from multiple dimensions. Obviously here at a historically Black college and university, we're talking about it from the perspective of African Americans, right? And other people of color. But even among white rural populations, one of the books that has moved me incredibly, because I recognize this is also part of our community here in Alabama, was J.D. Vance's Hillbilly Elegy. It's a groundbreaking book because it gives insight into the minds of rural whites and how they see the world. And they become too an area of recruitment and focus for how we do this whole cultural competency piece. And it really does matter. It really, really does matter. So congratulations. Those numbers are just remarkable. Yeah. That is remarkable. And you should be complimented for that work, because I know what it takes to get those numbers within POCs, populations of color.
Right. Congratulations again. You're listening to 90.1 FM WJOU, licensed to Oakwood University in Huntsville, Alabama. Now we're close to wrapping it up now, but we're going to take just a few more minutes, because Dr. Pollard was also talking about that range of, you know, where students should be, who could go into who would be great in the medical field. So we're going to ask Dr. Vanterpool to speak to that a little bit and talk about how our students are scoring.
Yeah, so I want to proudly say that we have a lot of our students scoring really well. We have students scoring in the top 10 percentile on the MCAT, a big significant portion of them scoring above 70th percentile. So our students do very well. And we do have an in-house MCAT prep program that is actually funded by our alums, and Dr. Nicole Houghton, one of our biology alums, is the one that spearheaded this. And I want to say she's been phenomenal at this, but so proud to see how our students are doing, because we know it's just something that we see minorities don't tend to do as well on these standardized exams as some other groups, but to see our students doing so well makes me so proud. So I will propel them into medical school with scholarship, because many of our students that got accepted this year has gotten scholarships, and we have a number of them.
I see you.
Dr. Smalligan wishes to speak. Yes, Doc.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to say that I think that is fantastic. And I want to reiterate what Dr. Pollard said, which is when you're admitted to our medical school, we want you to succeed. Exactly what you said. You are here to succeed. We want to support you. We want to help you. And I was terrified when I got into medical school because my dad's a doctor. And I said, Dad, I don't know if I can make it. This is hard. He said, you know what? The hardest part was getting in. Now that you're in, they're going to help you. You hang in there, you work hard, and you're going to succeed. And thank God, with his help, we did make it. And I think that's how the message we want to give to our students from Oakwood. The other thing I want to mention is, since Oakwood's right here in Huntsville, Alabama, I want to see students accepted to this program become known. I want them on our campus. I want them to come over here and have some rotations in our clinics. Maybe they get to go to the hospital with us. I want to build that relationship so that when they start medical school, and they already know some people from UAB Huntsville.
Mm-hmm. And Austin, you could probably speak to that, because you could tell us how Oakwood has prepared you for what you're doing now, and maybe you have some ideas of what more Oakwood can do, and UAB.
So it's kind of weird you ask that. They're already doing it. Like Oakwood does an amazing job when I was there, like preparing for Oakwood. Like I remember for microbiology class, that Vanterpool taught us microbiology, and I remember like referencing going back, find my old iPad for her notes on the subject, because they're quality notes, good information. And I did very well in that course because of my background in biology from her. What can we do to make it better? Make sure that all the freshmen know early on that this is a marathon, not a sprint. Yes. I think some people thought, okay, it's a quick little run, 2-3 years and it's over, and it's not that. So it's a long journey. So making sure all the freshman students they know that could be helpful. But as far as content, support system, it's there. You're already killing it. You're already making it. It's already amazing.
Dr. Karen Benn Marshall. You're muted, Dr. Kenmore.
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute myself. Thank you. So, I am so excited, and I really want to thank UAB, because this early assurance program is the first program that UAB signed. They've said that they've signed another one, but Oakwood's agreement with them has been the first of this type of program. And I think that is so critical. There was a press release that just came out, and so we'll make sure that everybody has the access to that. But I think the other part is, and I think Dr. Grabowski can really just talk about what are some of the elements of that program and how our current students who are eligible can apply.
I'm happy to do that. So the program will begin at the end of sophomore year. So we're hoping students can come in right as freshmen, get in there to those science classes, perform well. And at the end of the sophomore year, students with a 3.5 or above grade point average and science grade point average can apply. And they will, there's an application process that opens in May. And we will, of course, be coming out to visit. Jenna Blythe-Chia is one of our advisors, and she'll be coming to visit to answer questions and some Zoom meetings and things like that. And you can always contact us at medschool@uab.edu. We can answer questions. But we're looking for students with diverse backgrounds and experiences who are just interested in getting, more out of their undergrad sort of pre-health experience, and an early assurance so they can know that they've got a spot, right? We will be providing shadowing experiences. You talked about Dr. Smalligan. What you right in your backyard is one of our regional campuses. So opportunities to shadow. We have just a plethora of research opportunities, summer program students could engage in. So we'll have opportunities for students just to really kind of jump in and engage all the way through undergrad. And then they'll take the MCAT their senior year and apply in using the MCAT application process, but that spot will be held. So we're super excited.
Wow. And we placed that application on our Facebook page. So if our listeners and viewers want more information about that, they can check our Facebook page for this discussion to get more information about applying for this program. Great program, Dr. Pollard.
Yeah, a tremendous program, and congratulations to our biology program, to our science program, and congratulations, of course, and thank you, UAB, for your commitment to making a difference in this, and very important, and especially as since the pandemic we see how critical the profession of medicine actually is in helping us navigate these crises. We thank you. We look forward to continued partnership and the growth of this program. And thank you so very much. And we trust that many of our students will go to the webpage, go to our Facebook page. The application has been posted there, and you can already begin to start thinking about what your next steps are going to look like. So thank you so very much. Dr. Vanterpool had to leave to teach her class, but thank you, Dr. Vanterpool, in your absence for your work. We're very grateful. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Thank you all for being with us for another edition of Inside Oakwood. Join us again on Thursday. We'll have another great discussion about something that's happening inside Oakwood. We'll see you next time.